All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into some interesting astrological insights for tomorrow, April 8th, 2025.
Looking at, yeah, Texaglay by Tarot by High C.
Yeah, that's the one.
Really digging into all those kind of celestial perspectives and just
Yep.
trying to pull out some, useful takeaways for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So, just to give everyone a little bit more background, the specific piece that we're drawing from today is the astrology of the day for 08 April 2025, also by Tarot by High C.
Yeah, and if you're interested in going a little bit deeper, you're looking for some, more personalized readings, you can check out tarot by hic.net.
Cool. So I think one of the things that jumps out right away is this whole idea of the unexpected.
Yeah.
There's like this theme running through the source about unexpected messages, maybe some unusual attraction, even like some surprising help or, support coming from friends.
Yeah, gifts, assistance.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you think is like the core idea here? Like what's the takeaway for us?
Well, I think the interesting part is how all of this unexpected stuff really points to maybe a need for something new in your relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we see Venus and Uranus kind of interacting here,
Right.
and those unexpected messages, attractions, they could be nudging you toward those areas where you might be craving a little bit more excitement or authenticity in your connections.
So don't just dismiss the unusual.
Right.
Right. It could be like a hint at something you've been looking for without even realizing it.
A lot of times we can kind of get stuck in our routines,
Yeah.
and we don't even realize what we're missing until it kind of, smacks us in the face a little bit.
Right. And I thought it was interesting too how it also cautions us against like jumping into any huge decisions based on these fleeting moments.
Yeah, like hold off on that impulsive life change just because you felt a sudden spark, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
source is definitely saying, like, resist those irreversible choices, especially in relationships, just because you're bored or,
Yeah.
it's more about just, like, exploring the energy
Yeah.
rather than like, oh, this is it, I'm jumping in.
Yeah, play with it a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that actually connects really well with the next point, which is about paying attention to our cravings.
hmm
What are we like really wanting right now? What do you think those desires can tell us about what's going on?
Well, it's almost like our cravings are like these little signals, you know?
Right.
They're giving us these little insights into what we might be missing or
Hmm.
what we're yearning for.
That's such a good point.
And I think it's worth asking yourself, like, in this moment, what am I really longing for? What am I craving?
Yeah, almost like checking in with yourself
Exactly.
on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the source also talks about this idea of breaking free from like old relationship patterns
Yeah.
that are kind of stagnant and then finding like healthier ways to connect with people.
Yeah. How do we move past those kind of, ruts that we can get into?
Exactly. And how does the energy of the Virgo moon play into all of this?
Well, Virgo is very practical, very analytical.
Right, very grounded.
Exactly. So this is a really good time to look at those patterns, and think, okay, what can I actually do differently? And the source actually even mentions making lists, weekly goals, that kind of thing.
Very Virgo.
Yeah, it's all about taking those concrete steps.
Yeah, I love that. And I think this is where it gets even more interesting because we've got Venus retrograde sextile Uranus happening.
Right, and that sounds pretty intense, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like amplifying that whole feeling of wanting something different, I think.
Huge time.
Yeah, you really feel that itch for change with this transit, and it's particularly strong when it comes to, relationships, finances, and creative projects.
Things can feel kind of stale, I guess.
For sure, that feeling of been there, done that gets really strong.
And that's why I guess we see this repeated idea of like unexpected messages and unusual attraction.
Yeah, it's like the universe is trying to shake things up a bit.
So it sounds like this whole cosmic setup is really pushing us to consider change, but with that same message of like, don't go crazy with impulsive actions.
Exactly. It's about flirting with the idea of change,
Right.
not necessarily marrying it just yet.
Yeah.
So use those cravings as like indicators of what needs attention, but don't just, jump ship on everything.
Gotcha. And then the last thing we wanted to touch on was Mercury direct in Pisces,
Right.
which is happening from the 7th to the 16th.
hmm
So after that whole retrograde period, are we finally free to start moving forward on things?
I think so. Yeah. You had that time for reflection, you gained some insights.
Right.
Now it's time to actually put those insights into action.
Okay.
But the source does say not to rush into any major decisions just yet.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests waiting until Mercury enters Aries on the 16th to really, like, get the ball rolling. And it's kind of cool to think about, like, which area of your life feels like it's been a little stuck lately.
Yeah.
Has it been work, relationships, creative stuff? Because that's probably where you'll start to feel things moving again as Mercury goes direct.
Okay, I love that. So, to bring it all together, I guess what we're saying is be open to those unexpected connections and opportunities.
For sure.
Really pay attention to what you're craving because it could be a valuable clue.
Absolutely.
And, think about any old relationship patterns that you might want to shift a little bit,
Gently, gently.
gently.
Be mindful of those energies of change and new beginnings. Explore those different paths, but don't feel like you have to make any rash decisions right now.
Awesome. So, just a final thought for everyone listening. Considering all of this, which area of your life do you think has the most potential for a small shift right now?
Yeah.
And what's one tiny, non-permanent experiment you could try this week, maybe to explore a craving or just, nudge a pattern in a slightly different
You
direction?
like that?
Something to think about.
Oh,
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.